guys, it's me, Christina, and I have a book review on Grimm Fairy Tales Volume 1. And I like the stories. The artwork was a little risque. And it was very just, I like the stories. Like, it had, like, stories had dark twists. Like, my two favorites were, like, because there was, like, this storybook that was always, like, involved in all these stories, and that was, like, the last story, and that was a really good one, and I liked the Cinderella story. There was a Red Riding story that was about, like, of course, like, the, like, classic, like, she's going to see her grandmother, but there's, like, this guy that was involved, and he was, like, talking to her because they had apparently, like, done something that, like, only married people do. That was actually an exact quote. And then, like, she leaves him, and then she sees this guy, like, chopping down trees, and she apparently knows him, and he gives her, like, this sword, and because there's been, like, tracks of, like, wolf prints, and then she, like, sees blood, and she's, like, attacked by wolves, and she thought it was, like, like, wood chopper guy, but it was apparently the other guy, and that was just like a shocker. But she ends up stabbing, like, the chopper guy, and I was like, oh my god, that was, like, it was a really good story, but that one was not my favorite. The Cinderella story was my favorite, which is weird because I'm not really a big fan of the classic Cinderella story, but this one was way cooler. So the Cinderella story, is about, like, it starts out with, like, the, like, person, and then there's, like, the fairy tale person. So this girl named Cindy, and she's going, like, she's at school, and, like, and people are, like, starting to make fun of her, so she goes to this fairy tale lecture, and it's like the classics, Cinderella, stepsisters, blah blah blah, and there's a ball, and Cinderella's stepmother throws her into this, like, cellar, but the difference is Cinderella, like, can hear, like, all these ghosts, and then she has, like, she's like, I will do anything, and there's, like, this fairy godmother, and she's like, okay, you want to do everything you want, you give me your soul. And so, like, she gets to go to the ball, and blah blah blah, she has to come back at midnight, and then, like, something big happens, like, her stepsisters were, like, attacked, and then her mother, like, her stepmother, she, like, throws her down into, like, the cellar, and I was like, wow, that was really cool. The Hansel and Gretel story was very interesting. It was a little crazy because, like, Hansel is, like, very, like, and they have, like, these weird, like, parents, and, like, and then they have to, like, and then they find this house, and they stay there, and then Hansel's, like, caged up, and like, the witch, like, he ends up being eaten, and so I'm back. I had to do something. So continuing on with this review, the Rumpelstiltskin story is about. It starts out with, like, this girl, like, being pregnant, and her boyfriend wants to get rid of it, and then this lady comes up to the girl because the girl doesn't even know what to do, and it continues to the Rumpelstiltskin story with like the father claiming that this girl can spin gold, but she can't really spin gold, and the king's like, well, if you really can't do this, I'm going to have to kill you. And so she's like crying in the cellar, and she sees this dwarf, and the dwarf hears her crying, and he's like, yes, I'll help you, but you have to give me your firstborn child. And she agrees, and the king ends up marrying her. And when it comes to like the child being born, and she loves this child, she doesn't want to give it up. So Rumpelstiltskin says, well, if you can find out my name, you can keep the child, but I'm giving you 3 days. So she searches high and low, and there's this guy in like this hood in this like bar thingy, and one of the people who's like helping the queen, like princess, I don't know. With this is like he tells her, but we don't figure out later that and so she tells Rumpelstiltskin that his name is Rumpelstiltskin, and he like shrivels up and dies. But on the kid's 13th birthday, he comes back looking like different. He looks like more of like a human, and he curses the sun. So the girl learns that children are important. So yeah. The next story is Sleeping Beauty. And it starts out with this like really like nerdy kid, and he really likes this girl, and this girl's like uses him. And this, so she has to get like he has to get drugs for her from this like dealer guy, and this woman drops a storybook, and Brett reads it. It's Sleeping Beauty is told about a curse like that was put on her, and the servant likes her, and she's in this deep sleep. But the twist is, to be awakened, the boy must truly love her and always love her, because if he doesn't, he dies. So the servant goes up, and she wakes, and they are to be married, but the princess isn't into it, and is in with like this other guy, and she's just like this really like selfish person, and the guy ends up dying, and the princess never awakes again, and Brett learns that from that he shouldn't trust, like he shouldn't be used by people. So he ends up giving the girl back her money and noticing that she has a boyfriend. So yeah. The last one of the last stories, I think. Yeah, this the robbers groomsmen. 2 sisters are fighting over a guy in like the present day, and this story is also about sisters, but one sister is to be married, and the other sister pushes her off a ledge, and she ends up marrying the prince, and then she ends up being the meal. That one was an interesting story. It was very weird. The last one is The Legacy, and this is my second favorite of the stories. It's like about the storybook. The girl finds it, like this person that is always involved in these stories, finds it in this house with her brother, and the book has power to change, and it changes her town, and she finds this old guy who ends up being her brother. Like, oh my god. I really like the stories, but I don't think I will be continuing unless like I really feel like it one day, because I really am very offended by the art because it is very vulgar, especially with like women's parts. And yeah, but I really liked the story, but I have to read. The book itself is 3 out of 5 stars. That doesn't mean I hate the story, but it also doesn't mean I really was impressed by it. But I like the stories, just not the art. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys for my July wrap up. See you guys soon. Bye. Happy reading.